Hello everyone, and welcome to part 2 of What If Jazz was in Transformers Prime. So without further ado, let's get right to it. So we start this part off with the episode Deus Ex Machina, where everything goes the same, more or less, with obviously a few key differences. Starscream's dead, and Blackout takes his place, and the Decepticons are slightly more driven to revive Megatron. So no big changes happen really until we are at the museum where Knockout arrives right next to Optimus Prime. Breakdown arrives and does try to blast the missile at Optimus, but Jazz manages to hold the missile back from it even trying to hit Optimus. But then he directs the shot back at Breakdown, which causes him to transform and fall to the ground kinda hurt. Knockout and Optimus do transform, and Knockout does try to fight off Optimus, but Optimus picks him up and literally punches him back to Breakdown's side. The two then agree it is best to retreat, and so they leave. And in case you guys are wondering, no, Soundwave does not try to go in and just take the Energon Harvester from the humans, because Bumblebee, Bulkhead, and RC are still at their posts, meaning Soundwave has no opening to go in, so they basically get the Harvester back to the Autobot base and put it into storage without any interference. And thus, the episode Speed Metal happens. And this one also goes by kind of quicker and differently, where instead of Bumblebee, he asks Jazz to join him in the race, to which Jazz is pretty unsure at first, not wanting to go against Optimus's orders. But let's just say once Jack mentions Sierra, Jazz is like, "Oh, I see, this is all to impress a lady. I'll help you out, Jack." To which the race is kinda normal at first, till Knockout shows up, and there's a little bit of a pursuit away from the race, to which at some point the two transform to fight each other, and Jazz tells Jack to get away, but he doesn't make it far because Breakdown corners him. But RC, Bumblebee, and Bulkhead arrive to help Jack and Jazz, and blasters and weapons are aimed, and Jazz simply tells Knockout and Breakdown, "Leave now," to which they disagree, but Optimus still arrives. And Knockout and Breakdown actually do run away this time, because Optimus showed up. As to which Optimus looks to his Autobots. What is the meaning of this? Jazz steps up and is about to take full responsibility for everything, till Jack is like, "No, Optimus, it's my fault. Jazz has nothing to do with this. I made him come with me. Don't punish Jazz, or any of the Autobots for that matter." Jazz is like, "Punish? Why would I punish? There is no need for that." To which all is well. To which Jazz is like, "We have unfinished business, Jack." And they head back to the race, and actually manage to win last second, and Jack gets Sierra. Meanwhile, Blackout is flying to a crashed Decepticon ship. He transforms and walks around for a good while. That is until all of a sudden, he feels like he's being watched. And he just says, "Come on out. I know you're out there. I am your commander, Blackout." And Arachnid steps out of the shadows. "And for what do I owe the pleasure, Commander Blackout? I understand you are alone, a scavenger." And Arachnid says, "Yes, that's how I prefer it." And Blackout responds with, "Yes, I understand that, but know that I am working very hard to revive our Lord and Master Megatron, and it would be best if all Decepticons are united under our Lord Megatron's cause, so that we may conquer Cybertron and this universe. And who knows, if you help me, there could be a commander post in your future." "A commander post, you say? Once Lord Megatron returns, I could pull some strings and perhaps you can be a third in command." As to which Arachnid is then like, "Very well, I'm in." To which Arachnid looks up, and the Decepticon warship arrives, taking them away. Eventually, Optimus and Ratchet go to a crashed Autobot ship buried for centuries, and Optimus returns to the base with the Cybonic Plague. To which Jazz assumes temporary command and decides to find a way to get a cure. To which Jazz decides to take Bumblebee into the Nemesis to search for a cure. Eventually, they walk through a door and see Megatron's body on a lab table. Bumblebee is more willing to shoot, but then Ratchet says, Wait, Megatron may be the only one who knows a cure. You must enter his brain and find it." Jazz is the one wanting to do it, but B says, in his beat mode, "No, old friend, let me do it." So then Bumblebee enters Megatron's mind through the cortical psychic patch. To which everything goes more or less the same within Megatron's head. And eventually, Blackout, Arachnid, Knockout, and Soundwave walk into the medbay to review on Megatron's condition. To which Jazz is like, "Scrap, come on B, hurry up." To which Arachnid starts to take notice of the wire. Ratchet then says, "Jazz, we have the formula. Disconnect Bumblebee now." To which the cons then begin to notice that the Autobots are in there. Jazz and Bumblebee escape, but before that, Jazz shoots the wire off Megatron's chest. Later, the Decepticons are reviewing the damage, and Knockout says, "I have no idea what the Autobots did in there, but it seems no one is home." Blackout is then like, "Grrr, the Autobots will pay." To which Optimus is cured, and the Autobots begin to celebrate on the return of Optimus. But we zoom in to Bumblebee's eyes. "I'm out, or should I say in." And he begins to look around through Bumblebee's eyes, and then he sees Jazz. It would seem the Autobots have claimed a new ally here on Earth, while my attempt to raise an army failed. Starscream, you will pay dearly for your betrayal. Soon enough, the Autobots get a contact from Agent Valor that the Decepticons have stolen some sort of telescope. To which Optimus then says, it is hard to determine what Blackout's plan is with this telescope. As to which Megatron then thinks, Blackout? This changes everything indeed. To which Optimus Prime then decides to lead a team. So he takes Bulkhead, RC, and Jazz to the Arctic. Cause here, of course, Bumblebee does still complain of visions because of Megatron in his head. And Jazz does still go and is really worried about Bumblebee as he's with Prime. Blackout and Arachnid test their new heat ray down into the ice. And once the Autobots are spotted, Breakdown goes in to fight Bulkhead. Arachnid unexpectedly webs RC, which causes RC to have the tailgate flashback. And you know, they have their first ever tussle. And Knockout comes down to fight Jazz. And meanwhile, Bumblebee Possessed arrives with the Dark Energon ready to restore Megatron. And then Ratchet and Raph arrive and try to stop him just like in canon, but fail. And before Megatron decides to go back to his body, he decides to make a quick adjustment to Bumblebee's mind. Megatron decides to alter Bumblebee's mind. Instead of it being him whom ripped out Bumblebee's voice box, Optimus ripped out Bumblebee's voice box in an alteration of his memory. And instead of Ratchet being the one to save him, Megatron and Soundwave saved him. A little something to give me an extra number in this fight and to take another away from Optimus Prime. To which he revives himself and Ratchet goes to Bumblebee. Bumblebee, are you alright? But Bumblebee gets in defensive mode and goes to Megatron's side. Ratchet's then like, Bumblebee, it's me. And then he's like, oh no, as he finds out what happened. So he grabs Raph and runs. To which Megatron is like, leave them, Bumblebee, for your old friend Optimus Prime is here. And Bumblebee gets mad. So we get to Optimus and Blackout as they are fighting. And mid-fight, Megatron walks out. And the two pause. Blackout says, Lord Megatron, you're alive. And Optimus stares at him in the eyes. Megatron, you're back. How is this possible? And Megatron says, oh, Optimus Prime, anything is possible, especially with the right allies. And then he hears footsteps running behind him, and Bumblebee uppercuts him off the Nemesis warship into the ground. Ratchet very quickly calls all the Autobots to retreat. So all the Autobots come together with Optimus. And they just look up to see Megatron with Bumblebee standing beside him. Jazz is then like, B, no. To which the Autobots, surprised at all this, retreat back to their base. And back at the base, they begin to review on why Bumblebee did this. And that is when Ratchet steps in and explains that perhaps Megatron did something to Bumblebee while within his mind. We then see Jazz as he has a flashback on a moment during the war. And as a young bot named Bumblebee approached him and his best buddy Cliffjumper. Hey, I'm new around here. And our leader Optimus Prime told me you two were a good duo and that I could possibly train under you. Cliffjumper then says, yeah, why not, yellow bugger? Wait, why do you look like me? Bumblebee's like, wait, what do you mean? I'm yellow, you're red. Jazz then says, it's okay, Cliff. Listen, Bumblebee, was it? You're cool to hang out with us. Oh, by the way, you'll get used to Cliffjumper. He's quite the conversationalist. Hey! And then the young Bumblebee joins their trio, training with them. And then we get back to present time. And Jazz is like, I'll never lose faith in you, B. Meanwhile, Knockout places the Decepticon symbol on Bumblebee Welcome back to the winning team. And that's where I'm going to leave it off here, everybody. Hopefully you guys enjoyed part 2, and I'll see you guys in part 3.